So for this video, what we're going to do is we're going to take the current account and the capital account, also known as the financial account, that we discussed last video, and what we're going to do is we're effectively going to connect that to the balance of trade and balance of payments and sort of introduce the concept of the notion of the international trade between two parties with respect to imports and exports and these two accounts. Okay, so for this video, what we're going to do is we're going to use the United States and China as trade partners. And we know that the United States and China today are, of course, trade partners. All right, so what I have here is a little table set up, and you can see that we have the USA and China again, and these two accounts, the current account and the capital account. So what we're going to assume is that the United States and China, they are trading goods between each of these countries. And in doing so, they actually have a situation where their exports are equal to their imports. Again, they are trading goods. So the United States is producing stuff, exporting it to China. China's producing stuff, exporting it to the USA. And so we're going to just pretend for a second that the balance of these two countries' trade is equal. So if that's the case, then when we look at the capital account, the money that is flowing out of the country is flowing right back into the country. Or, said another way, the inflow of money is equal to the outflow of money. Again, the inflow of money is equal to the outflow of money. Chinese dollars and US dollars are equal to each other. So when we talk about the current account is the effective way for an economist to measure the balance of trade. That is to take the exports minus the imports and to determine whether there is a trade balance, a trade surplus, or a trade deficit. So in this case, we've got a situation where the same amount of money that is purchasing Chinese goods is coming right back to the United States with respect to Chinese buying USA goods. Okay, these things, again, these two things are equal. So in the current account, there's a balance. There's no deficit. There's no surplus. All right, let's take a more realistic situation. Let's say that in reality, which is, of course, the situation that we have in our country now, the United States is actually importing more than we're exporting from China. And this is true. We have a trade situation with China where we are importing more than we're exporting. So if we're importing more than we're exporting, what is that called? The answer is a trade deficit. So the United States currently has a trade deficit with China because we do, in fact, import a great deal more than we export. All right, let's look at China. If we are importing more than we're exporting from China, then China must be exporting more than they're importing. Or, said another way, they're selling more stuff to us than they're buying from us. What is this called? This is called a trade surplus. Okay, so this brings us to our capital account or the financial account. If the United States is buying more stuff than we're selling, we're a buying nation versus a selling nation. Well, lots and lots of money is flowing out of our country. And so for China, lots of money is flowing into their country. And of course, this creates an imbalance. Now, when we look at the capital account, what we have to do is we have to understand what it is that China is going to actually do with this excess money that they're earning from their trade surplus. See, the United States is actually sending more money out than we're bringing in terms of our buying of imports. So what does China do with all this collective US dollars that they've earned from the sale of their trade surplus or their exports? All right, so what China's going to do is China's going to turn around and take some of that excess money and they're going to buy US assets, financial assets. And thus, that brings us to the capital account. So, when we look at the capital account, if China is buying assets from the United States because they have leftover money through this idea of a trade balance or in this case trade surplus, then what we would say is that their capital account is actually positive. They're actually sending more money out, right? They're sending more money out to buy bonds and stocks and other financial assets for financial portfolio investments than they are having money brought in. In the United States, we're sitting back because we are having a trade deficit. We have to supplement the fact that we're not selling as many goods to China. We actually have to borrow this money. Okay, so for us, the inflow of money in the capital account is greater than the outflow. And that makes sense, right? We're actually borrowing more money than we are lending money. Okay? And so for us, Because the inflow is greater than the outflow, we have a negative capital account. So to resolve this again, we see a balancing act that happens. As the United States runs trade deficits, China runs trade surpluses. The way that they balance these two things out and keep both parties sort of, I guess you could say, equally happy or equally productive, China is going to lend money to the United States in their capital account, their financial account. And this is going to give them that positive outflow. So the capital account, as a reminder, is a way for us to track how much one country owns of another country's financial assets. And the reason why China, again, is able to do this is because they've sold so many more things to us than we bought from them. Okay? And that is the capital account and the current account and how that affects the trade balance or the balance trade and the balance of payments.